right, good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Welcome to the morning show. Spencer, Steve, JC with you as always. Who do we got today? Mr. Brian Lund will be waking up bright and early to join us in about a half hour or so. It is Wednesday. We always have Mary on for mornings with Mary on Wednesday. Can't wait to see what she's doing. What else do we got here? Hey, the market had a down day. That's allowed. Did you know that? That's allowed. True story. My dad calls me last night and he goes, "Hey, what happened to the market today?" And I was like, "I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it went down, and it does." So you guys might appreciate that. All right, enough about me. Let's bring Steve on. Let's bring JC on, and let's get the show on the road.
Hey, happy Wednesday, everybody.
Hey
guys.
I think Strazza is looking more and more like Blippy every day.
Who's that?
Watch Blippy? You will.
Oh, kids show.
Sorry.
Kids show.
Blippy's like this creepy guy who goes to little kid fun zones and stuff and shoots videos. That's what you look like this morning. So,
Thanks.
Good to see you too, buddy.
That's nice.
Yeah. Strazza's like, I just woke up. JC's already ripping me. Jesus.
I didn't just wake up. Blippy must have a nice wardrobe. A lot of silk shirts from Thailand.
He's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't let my kids around him.
You let your kids around me.
Yeah. They're harmless. So speaking of so Spencer, you were talking about how your father was pinging you that the stock market was down. You could remind him that the NASDAQ 100, for example, still at the same levels it was in early February. We are now in early April. So, maybe stocks at the index level maybe haven't gone down, but they haven't been going up either, right? The Russell 2000 is still below the December highs, right? The S&P 600 is still well below those December highs. So there's a lot of stocks that stopped going up and a lot of things changed in February. So you could remind your father that this is not anything new.
Well, I threw him the stat about the 2% correction or lack thereof, right? I threw that at him.
Yeah. So. Well, what's 2%? 2% is just an arbitrary, right?
Yeah.
2% doesn't actually.
It's arbitrary, but 2% is like a nice red day. That's not like.
Okay, so 200 basis points is a nice red day, but 175 basis points is not.
The market doesn't The market doesn't accidentally fall 2%, right? That's like doesn't. It's not like an oopsie,
Yeah, but
it's
what's the difference between 200 basis points and 180?
Yeah, in that sense, yes, it is arbitrary, right?
So 200 is irrelevant. What does it matter? 2%. That's like, come on, Spencer, you're better than that. That's some bullshit clickbait, fucking old school.
Yeah, you have to draw the line somewhere. You have to draw the line somewhere at these stats. You just do.
It's irrelevant, Spencer. Come on, you're better than that, buddy. You're better than that. What does it matter? 200 basis points, 190.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's just interesting. Right?
And you're both right. At a certain point, if you want to, do stuff like this, you need some sort of way to quantify or draw the line in the sand, right? So 2%, nice round number. Sure. Is this 2017 again?
Dow Jones Industrial Average, same levels it was in, mid-February. So a lot of these indexes have made zero progress whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So just keep that in mind. Now, with that being said, we haven't really seen a lot of new lows. Yesterday, we saw some 10-day lows like in healthcare and technology. The only stocks making new highs were energy and materials. That chart that we should actually share that. Do you have it handy, the chart that Grant shared yesterday in the Slack with the new highs? I actually have it. Here we go. Why don't we do a little bumper state of the markets, and then we'll get into some of these breath stuff.
Cool.
All right. So we've got the Dow futures this morning pretty much flat, down 35 points. S&P futures hanging around 52.50 for the S&P 500, down about 20 basis points this morning, 10 handles. NASDAQ 100 futures down 1/3%. That's about 60 points this morning. 30-year bond futures down again, flirting with breaking that 117 level on that 30-year bond futures as the bond crash continues. Maybe a slow crash, maybe a low volatility crash, but a crash nonetheless, my friends. And we will discuss gold futures up again, just below 2,300. New all-time highs for gold. Silver up 2% yesterday. Strazza, silver above 26, big level, pushing that 26.50. That's a big one. Copper futures, so silver futures up 2% on the day. Copper futures up 1%, 411 on copper. Sticking the landing on that 4. Very impressive. Crude oil futures, surprise, surprise, up again, up 1%, $86 per barrel. Dollar mixed in early trading. Volatility index back above 15 for the VIX. U.S. 10-year yield, 4.4%. I keep being told that rates are going down. Call me crazy. I keep seeing literally the exact opposite. Over in the funny money, you got Bitcoin, pretty much flat on the day, up 400 points, just under 66,000 for BTC. You got Ethereum just above 3,300, up almost a full percent on the day, 3,300 for Ethereum. Then you got the old Solana, 187 on the Solana, up 6 points. That's 3% on the day. Total crypto market cap, Spencer Israel, 2.4 trillion. And some action, believe it or not, in the meme coins this morning. Geo Bowden up 31% on the day. You got Based Brett. That's Pepe's best friend, up 16% of the day for Brett. You got the Mew, which is the new hotness, new all-time highs for Cat in a Dog's World. That's MEW. And Book of Meme, new highs as well. A lot of stuff going on in the meme coin complex while other things are mixed. So that's what I see.
You mean meme coins are moving? I'm shocked. I'm stunned.
Well, they're moving higher with commodities, and stocks and the other cryptocurrencies are not moving higher. So that's interesting.
Yes, the old meme coin commodity correlation. I think I learned that that was in the level like 0.5, CMT 0.5.
CMT level 5.
That was level 5. Sorry, level 5. Yeah.
Yeah, CMT level 5.
Mm-hmm.
How to break down, how to do a discounted cash flow analysis
right
on the meme coins.
Right.
Put a little trade on Nat Gas yesterday.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you bought the Geo Bowden. I was going to say, well, that's the top.
No.
What
we were talking about
little natural gas. I like it. Listen, the natural gas is, we talked about it. We talked about it at the accelerator in New York in January. This is a great time to be buying. I think it gets back to your time horizons. If you look at natural gas when it gets down here in the past, it's usually messy for a while. So I've kind of been patient. I really liked that MACD monthly crossover.
Yeah.
I never like that. I think it's I shouldn't say I never like that. I rarely like that and use that. But for this occasion, I think a monthly MACD crossover on natural gas, I think makes a lot of sense. What do you think, Strazza?
You're getting some monthly MACD crossovers in silver miners too. Just
hey now,
put that out there.
Why don't we do a monthly MACD crossover and then figure out what the spread is between those for a lot of different assets.
Spread between the MACD lines? You mean the signal line and the moving average? Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do like green if it's above, red if it's below, and then we'll put a spread of what the difference is. Like, is it getting closer to, right?
That's an easy one. I like that. Yeah. Let's see what's on there. Yeah. We'll do that right after the show.
Woohoo! We'll talk about it in our meeting today. All right. Let's talk about market breadth, guys. Pull up slide 2 there. So what you're seeing is the new highs list in the S&P 1500. And what you're seeing is a lot of new highs in energy. What you're seeing is a lot of new highs in basic materials. You're seeing new highs in utilities. You saw no new highs in technology or industrials, financials, consumer discretionary. No new highs really at all in any of those areas. And then you could broaden out, go to slide 3. You can broaden that out. You could zoom in just so you could see. But what this does is each one of those boxes is a different sector.
But to be clear, this isn't the best, right? Because this is just a given day. We should really.
All right, this is a given day. That's right. Yeah, but it speaks to the market environment that we're in, right? I mean, what happened yesterday is really representative of what we're seeing in general, no?
Yeah, but if a lot of stocks go down that day, you're not going to get new highs or any new highs. You could do advanced decline. and show the same thing.
Look
right?
at the so here we're looking at these boxes, right? Notice where all those green are. That is basic materials and energy. Notice how there's not a lot of green in any of the other areas. Right?
Yeah, for sure. I just
Also, we're seeing, again, you can't have any sort of material correction of any kind in the market without the prices of stocks falling. So I think a great place to look is the new lows list, right? So go to the new slide 4 there, Spencer. And what you're seeing is the most amount of new 10-day lows coming out of healthcare, which is interesting. Right, big spike there. Consumer defensive staples, right? Again, not really a lot of new lows. Look at the 20-day lows, right? So those are basically 1 month lows. Healthcare, staples, real estate, really leading the pack there on the 20-day lows. That's interesting too, Strazza. Right, some of those more defensive areas leading the new lows lists. That's interesting. And then nothing happening in the 3-month lows list, 6-month lows list, 52-week lows list. Nothing happening there at all. So this is a good one to watch. Keep an eye on, because again, we've been saying it all year. You can't have a correction of any kind without the prices of stocks falling. So this is literally a table that shows us whether or not stocks are falling, and more importantly, which ones. This is a great table.
So you're seeing defensives as the underperformers still.
Yeah.
Bull market price action.
For sure.
And now value and cyclical groups kind of taking the leadership throne from the growthier sectors.
No doubt. How about the fact that they keep telling you that interest rates are going down? I keep seeing interest rates going up. 7s, 10s, 20s, 30s, everything. All new year-to-date highs yesterday for rates. Any thoughts there?
Still rangy, though. They're still rangy.
They've been going up all year, man.
Within a range, though.
Within a range from last year's highs, you mean? Yeah, for sure.
It's a multi-year range, really, yeah.
What do you think about this? What do you think about this? All the Wall Street banks think that rates are going to get cut. You see this one?
Yeah, so there'll probably be a hike in there before then.
Literally every single one of these banks. Do you think these banks are in the business of helping you?
There
are people that are mentally deranged that think that these banks are in existence to help them. Can you believe that shit?
I remember December, we were talking about this, saying the biggest surprise for markets, right? The biggest way to catch everybody off sides in 2024 is going to be bond market stuff. And we've slowly gone from 6 cuts to 5 cuts to 4 cuts to 3 cuts. Now our very smart friends are coming on and saying, maybe no cuts. Maybe
Which smart friends? Who are you alluding to?
Fed speakers are coming on and flirting with the idea of no hikes.
Oh, I thought you said our friends.
Yeah, Kenny Polcari said.
Yeah, Kenny was on the other day.
Oh,
he's a couple guys.
Kenny's not a Fed speaker.
No, I'm saying our smart friends, analysts, market participants who come on this show are starting to say it, but Fed speakers are also starting to kind of
got it.
Lay the groundwork for maybe a no cut year.
Is that why small caps never got the memo that we're in a bull market? You want to go to the next one there, Spencer?
I also just think with a table like that, obviously Mizuho stands out, but there's a large element of like career risk there. You don't want to stray too far from the pack.
Yep.
Of course, because these sell side analysts, do you think these sell side analysts give a shit about you and your portfolio? They care about little Timmy's private school and Martha's country club membership and her private yoga classes or whatever. That's what Jim the analyst is interested in. You think Jim the analyst is going to risk little Timmy's private school tuition and Martha's country club membership to go out on the limb and tell you what he really thinks? Or do you think he's just going to roll with the herd so that he could say, "Oh, well, I got it wrong, but so did everybody else," and little Timmy gets to keep going to private school? Come on.
No. We weren't wrong. The market was wrong. But also, if we're gonna criticize the sell side for being sheep like this, you got to at least give Mizuho some props for their call, which does go out on a limb.
Yeah.
And say no rate cuts this year. So
good for them.
Good. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Good for them.
Yeah.
We could use more of that, frankly.
You're saying it's got to go both ways.
Yeah, sure.
And again, shout out to Mizuho. The Japanese always just have a special place in my heart. These Japanese folks, man, they don't mess around. They got good eats over there, man. Whew. Our homie Jake is out in Japan. I saw him on Twitter. Why don't you get Jake on the show?
I've tried. Every time I reach out to Jake, he goes, "Oh, I'd love to. I'm going to like Botswana tomorrow, so I'll hit you when I'm back." It's happened 3 times now.
Yeah. We got to get him on the show. Very curious to see what he's saying. I want to hear his thoughts on Japan. I think it's his first time in Japan. But yeah, man, Mizuho. Shout out Mizuho. Maybe the Japanese, the cultures in Japan. One thing I have noticed through all my travels in Japan is that their cultures are very different than ours. Like we go to Europe from the United States, and the architecture's a little older, and the accents are a little different, but it's not really that different. Japan, you're going to Mars, right? It's a whole nother planet altogether. So maybe their sell-side analysts don't have those same conflicts of interest. Maybe their sell-side analysts aren't concerned with Martha's Country Club.
I think maybe you're overthinking this. Maybe they just believe that there's going to be no rate cuts this year. I don't know.
Oh, because none of those other banks believe that.
I mean, look.
Come on, Spencer. You know better than that.
I guess I don't have a response to that.
Come on, these people are not here to help you. They're here to help themselves.
I don't have a response to that. I don't know what to say. So
why don't we go to small caps?
Yeah.
Small caps. So I'm now a fundamental guy. Strazza, I'd love for you to weigh in here. The companies, the stocks that get hurt the most with rising rates, correct me if I'm wrong, are the companies that need to
raise money.
Borrow money, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So do you think that small caps are sniffing that out? Is that why they never got the memo that we've been in a bull market and they're still below last year's highs?
Some would say, yeah, that would be a reason.
Nice. Getting some comments. ASE has thousands of comments and trade recommendations. Does ASE have any data showing how you guys help people? Again, to be clear, we're not here to help people. We're here to share ideas, get feedback. My job is not to help people. I don't give advice. I really don't care what other people do with their money. That's actually none of my business.
Yeah,
right?
but we do. There's a ton of educational research.
No, listen, people find value in what we do, obviously. That's why we're the most widely read technical analysis research in history, to be clear. But that's not our intent. We have very selfish motivations. I have been very clear about that. And again, to be fair, no matter how rich I get, I can't see a situation where I'm not going to share my ideas, right? I can't see a situation where, I'm not going to look for feedback on my ideas and my thoughts. So, I'm not going anywhere. But again, just to be clear, I'm not giving advice. I really don't care what anybody does with their money. That's not my business. It's none of my business what other people do with their money. I'll tell you what we're doing. I'll tell you what we like, what we don't like. And, a lot of that is really to get that feedback. And by the way, we have a lot of fun too. We're going to Sonoma with a bunch of our, all the analysts are getting together and we're inviting a bunch of friends. So, don't get me wrong. We have a lot of fun too.
I'll just add, we come out here every day and we share our thoughts on markets and what we're doing on markets. We're really just out here trying to make money. And while you're right, we don't particularly care. If other people make money along the way with us, that makes us very happy. It makes us feel good. So.
For sure. 100%. Listen, we get the sweetest, nicest emails from people all over the world every single day. And don't get me wrong, we really, really appreciate that. It is great. But again, that's not our goal. If that's the end result, that people find value and they get educated and they learn a lot, that's fantastic. That's great. Just remember, that's just not the motivation here. The motivation is really just to share ideas, get feedback, bring a community together so we can have some fun, drink some wine, get a party bus and go eat pizza all over New York City, things like that. Right, Strazza?
You keep jumping to Sonoma. What are we eating in Miami, though? I've been thinking
I was thinking about that this morning. We got to hit up a few of my favorite Cuban bakeries. We'll go to Abuela's house, maybe get a little lunch. We'll see what happens. I got a chart for you, Strazza.
Yeah.
Throw up slide 7. Right, so this is it.
Yeah.
I keep being told that we're so back. We're back, baby. We are back.
I mean,
we're literally back to where everything started to fall apart last time. Literally, by definition, we are back. And notice how Ethereum is not on that list because Ethereum couldn't even give us the common courtesy to retest those former highs. Couldn't even do it.
Ethereum So not back. So not back.
Ethereum almost back.
Almost back. We got to get through though. Patience. You got to be patient. These are some of the strongest ones. I don't know how Binance continues to be on that list, but it's been that way forever. Also experiences like some of the shallowest drawdowns among cryptos, Binance, for whatever reason.
Binance 58 Binance about a little over 80 billion market cap, Coinbase under 60. So a third more expensive in terms of valuation than Coinbase. Again, I think that helps put things in perspective because people are like, "Oh, what about, Binance is much bigger than Coinbase." Which I know you probably are like almost offended by that, right? Like, how is that even possible? Which probably makes you more bullish on Coinbase. How am I doing? How close am I?
They have the larger market because they have most things outside the US, right? So it's US versus world kind of situation. And they also have no standards. So probably do a little more business.
Yesterday I was on a podcast with it'll be aired probably today or tomorrow with Raul Paul and with Howard Lindzen and with Phil Perlman. And they're all like, "Oh, cryptocurrencies are going higher." You know Phil Perlman, just like put some away, forget that you own it. You know how he is. Which, by the way, that has worked for him, obviously. Lindzen, going higher. Raul Paul, just buy as much crypto as, how he is. Everybody, and I'm like, guys, I love you guys because I do love all three of those guys. I'm going to take the other side of that, and I'm going to be the old conservative man in the room. Meanwhile, I'm the youngest of the four of us. I'm going to be the old conservative man, and I'm going to say, I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And by the way, this whole old man conservative nature of mine has really been beneficial lately. Kind of waiting for the breakout, willing to pay more, knowing that we're already on the way up instead of trying to front run the breakout. I really like that strategy, especially here. Throw that chart up one more time, Spencer.
I don't like the whole strategy of just buy and never sell, though, particularly in crypto. I think that's dangerous.
Oh, I feel the exact opposite way.
I mean, because what ends up happening is you get a bunch of, you get some awesome gains during a bull market, and then you're in 80% drawdown and you freak out and you sell at the lows. It happens to a lot of people. So I don't know. I think you got to take profits along the way.
Look at these bases, bro. All right. So, okay, JC is going to be the old man, the conservative in the room. Just wait for the breakout. It could be tomorrow, could be next week, could be 2 weeks, could be next year, could be never. I don't think it's going to be never. I think it's going to be this year. But maybe I could be wrong. I have no idea, but I'm going to wait, man. I'm going to wait. And when that comes, that completion of the, you know what this reminds me of? I'm not going to lie. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of like 2020. Like when gold got back to those former highs, and I remember saying, "Oh man, look at this base. This is going to break out. Just wait till this thing breaks out." I don't know how long. I remember saying it just like this. I don't know how long it's going to take. Could take a few weeks, could take a few months, could take a few quarters. I honestly didn't think it would take almost 4 years, right? I thought it would be sooner, but obviously I didn't know. Isn't this the same thing?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, maybe. I just want to sort of respond to Steve's idea about Steve doesn't like the idea of buying and holding crypto, and I do, and that's how I approach it.
What now?
You don't like the idea of buying and holding crypto forever? Oh, you have the hat. That's funny. Okay.
See, one for Strazza. That's funny.
That was good. That was funny. That went over my head. Over my head. Hat over my head. Okay. See, here's the way I look at it, right? With stocks, right? We know that whatever the study says, the stat is 70% of all stocks ever have gone to zero. If your stock falls 80%, statistically speaking, it's not going to come back, right? There are exceptions to this, right? Amazon, Apple, basically every big tech stock, right, fell 80% at one point, right? And they all came back. Those are the exceptions to the rule. For every one of those, there's 50 that never came back. With crypto, specifically with the majors, right? Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, whatever, a half dozen of those. That's not the rule. In fact, the opposite is true. They do come back. We've seen it time and time again. So ask yourself, what would you rather have happen? Would you rather sell and make some money, but miss out on like the rest of it? Or would you rather just like not sell and potentially you lose it all, but we've seen that it can come back, that this has happened multiple times, as I said. Also, what helps things for me personally is most of my net worth is not in crypto. If it was, I would probably feel differently.
Okay, boomer.
Well, hold on. Okay, this isn't like this isn't like high tide and low tide. They're not always gonna come back, and that's a dangerous.
Of course they're not. Of course they're not.
Oh, they're always gonna come back. They're never gonna go to zero. First of all, some of them haven't come back. Some of them don't come back. I get what you're saying. Even the crappiest altcoins, they drew down 90%, and now they're up 10, 20x right since last year. I don't know if it's always going to be that way, and I don't know if that's a good strategy either. Because, God, if that changes and you're just bag holding forever, I don't know.
Of course, it doesn't have to come back. Obviously, that would be stupid to think that. But we've seen it happen, right? So what would you rather? Would you rather bag hold down 90% or miss the move to Bitcoin to $1 million? I would rather the former. You would rather the latter. That's fine. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
I would rather bag hold down 90 than miss Bitcoin to $1 million and say, I had this thing at 30,000.
That sounds like a terrible way to live, Spencer. I love you, but that sounds terrible.
And you could trade it along the way. You don't.
That's also true.
Just because you're not bag holding doesn't mean that you're not performing well in the bull markets.
Also, you can have longer term positions that you're hanging on to, and then you could be trading it with your liquid portfolios too.
That's right. I do that.
Right? We do that with stocks, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course you can trade around stuff. Sure. Yeah.
Well, no, it's both. You have your long-term portfolios, and then you were talking like this goes back to what I always say, that 99% of all arguments on Twitter would end immediately if both parties just recognize that they're talking about different time
horizons, different purposes, sure.
Different time horizons, different objectives. I agree with that long-term hold. I've done that myself. By the way, very successfully, I might add. In both crypto and in the stock market, because both are at all-time highs. Now, that has nothing to do with what I'm going to do today, right?
Yeah.
Or next week with other portfolios and other strategies. Two different things.
Yeah, and to Dawson's point, it's about the percentage of your net worth. Yeah, if it was flipped, if I had, a 75% of my net worth in Bitcoin and Ethereum, I might feel differently, but I don't, right?
Right.
So, but then again, if Bitcoin goes to $1 million, I might. So, I don't know. We'll see. That's just sort of how I think about it.
I really like these bases. I mean, I really do. Like this chart really tells that story, huh? I mean, this is
they're good bases. They're good bases.
Huge bases. But with that being said, we've seen these bases before, and the question is, how long is it going to take, right?
Yeah. All right. You want to talk? You want to talk to Brian Lund?
Please
do it.
Jay, we've been friends for a long time. Make the call.
I mean, this is pretty professional, guys.
Nice show you got going here.
Hey, Mr. BC Lund. Look at you. What are you, in a library?
Whoa.
Yeah, kind of. I've got a home library set up now, so.
Nice.
Look at you. Doing a lot of reading these days. What are you reading?
More books than me.
I like to read books on books. So there you go.
You like to read books about other books.
What does that mean?
Yeah, books like the history of books or printing of books or the art of books, things, related to books. It's very meta.
Nerd alert.
Yeah, I know. Really? Did you just figure that out now?
Well, we're all friends for a reason, Brian, right?
Speaking of Brian, nerd alerts, what this is would you rather game you guys are playing? It reminds me of when we were like in second grade. Like would you rather ask Susie out on a date or get hit? Right, with a punch.
I'd rather ask Susie out on a date.
Of course you would. So,
wait, Brian, I just want to say thank you. I just want to thank Brian for yesterday on Spaces. We ended up talking about
the Albanian crisis,
Albanian pyramid scheme. I have a tab open on my computer that I'm halfway through. from an article from the International Monetary Fund from March of 2000, the rise and fall of Albania's pyramid schemes. I'm halfway through it.
It is one of the most fascinating things you will ever read or learn about the transition from a communist country to a capitalist country, and how the things that can arise out of that we don't think about. It's
Weird.
really fascinating.
Yeah.
Brian was
good read.
asking all the hard-hitting, deep philosophical questions about crypto, Bitcoin specifically. You missed it, JC.
All right, Brian, are you in the Geo Bowden?
Am I in the what?
The
Don't
Geo
be
Bowden.
fronting like you weren't texting me last week about the radio.
Oh, right, the book of memes.
Oh,
Book of
yeah.
memes.
Oh, no, not the book of memes. I'm talking about the Geo Bowden.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Sorry.
Well,
Is that a new rock band?
I wish it was. It's just another meme coin.
Yeah. I talked, we texted last week, or actually you called me. And so I got my Phantom account set up, and I put a special antenna on the roof, and I stood a certain way. And been trying to get money in my wallet. It's kind of a process. So I'll get there.
To get money in your wallet is a process?
Yeah, it seems to be. I got my 12 word security key. I'm getting there.
All right. We'll see. All right. So a guy like
Wait,
yourself.
before we get into this, I want you to answer a question, or see if you have a take on this.
Sure.
So, well, first of all, I hope you had a good Easter, right? I hope you enjoyed your 3-day weekend.
Most definitely.
What's your theory on why the market is closed on Good Friday? Because I've been doing this for 30 some odd years, and I still get caught by surprise when the market is closed on Good Friday.
New York Stock Exchange run by Irishmen and Italians back in the day.
Right. Okay. That's what I heard. So I heard Art Cashin say once that a lot of the clerks on the floor back in the day were Irish and Italian and highly Catholic. And so, but that fascinates me. That still, perpetuates to this day. It's very interesting to me.
100%. And that's really what it is. Remember down in the New York Stock Exchange, you had, traditionally when there were people down in the New York Stock Exchange, it was a blue collar community. It
Right.
wasn't these Wall Street fat suits, Harvard, MIT. These were street hustlers, very thick accents, a lot of Irishmen and Italians. These are Christians. These are Catholics. I don't know if that is a fact, but that's just kind of weighing all of the evidence. It makes the most sense to me. And it's not closed more days because the New York Stock Exchange can't close for more than 3 days at a time. That
Right,
I do know.
Yeah, and look, that makes sense to me. I think Art Cashin probably has the best take on it. But I'll tell you what, speaking of Wall Street history, speaking of archaic financial history, Spencer, if you're still listening, look up Anarchists' bombing of Wall Street, right? People think that we're in this really bad time, that we live in this really bad time right now. But it's only because they have no context on history. There's been so many horrible things that happen. And if you look up that one, that's pretty shocking.
That was like 100 years ago, right? Or more than that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
right.
Yeah.
You could still see the the holes on the side of the wall there.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I love history. I love history like that because you just can't understand the times you're in unless you have context. And I think too many people they just don't. They don't look at these things.
Well, I know, Brian, you have like a philosophical aversion to coming to New York City for some strange reason.
That's right. I don't.
If you ever decide that you want to come to New York, you call me and I'll give you the best walking tour of Wall Street you ever got. I'm full of fun facts, useless knowledge of that area.
Yeah, I usually don't get east of Vegas unless someone died or got married. Although I was in Boston recently, so I was close.
Yeah, Boston's all right.
I love Boston's that's a great walking town too.
I like Boston too. I have no beef with Boston, but compared to New York, it's all right.
They say that any city that's on the water is always going to be great because you have this big, mixture of ethnicities and immigration, and that's always good. That informs the food, right? They say they've said that the Azore Islands are the best place for food because apparently that's one of the places in the world that's been conquered the most by the most different cultures or armies, and they all leave behind some of their food and their recipes. So
that's exactly right. And Boston, good eats in Boston, man. Great eats, actually. Really
and some
good eats.
and some pretty solid breweries from a guy who's a West Coast beer snob. Like they've got some really. There's a place called Harpoon out there that's solid. Another place called Trillium. So I love Boston.
Big drinkers in Boston.
You think?
Big drinkers in Boston, and this whole like the Irish drink a lot. Like that is not a joke. That is not a joke. You go to Ireland, go to Kilkenny, go to a bar in Kilkenny. You got people passed out standing up. Like that.
Yeah, I was in I was in a bar in Dublin once, and I asked for a harp, and which is a little bit light. And the guy said that's what we put in bottles for the babies. You don't drink harp here.
That's really funny. All right, can we talk about the markets? I want to know what you're thinking here. So a couple months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago or so, got a little spooked. Mid-February or so, started raising some cash from what you've told us.
Yep.
I like that call a lot. When you look at the NASDAQ 100, for example, is still at the same levels it was in mid-February. Dow Jones Industrial Average, same levels it was in February. Russell 2000s below the December highs, right? So, getting conservative in February, I think was the right call. More so than getting conservative, we've noticed a lot more sector rotation, right? So it's less about stocks have been going down since then, more about fewer stocks have been going up, and actually different types of stocks are the ones that are going up is what I've noticed. So I'd love to hear sort of 6 weeks later, 7 weeks later, looking back on that, what have you seen since then? What are you thinking moving forward?
Yeah, so I like to gauge the market based upon my previous appearances on your show. And so the last time I was on was March 6th, right? And you're right, the market is literally flat. I mean, the SPX is up just a little bit. I was having this discussion last night on Spaces with Joe Fahmy, and someone brought up the fact that in an election year, the average return for the SPX is, I think, 11%, give or take, right? And we're up, 10% right now? So you could make the argument that between now and the election or the end of the year, you only got about a 1%, right, swing possibility. And so I'm not saying that's exactly going to happen, but my point is the market always seems to want to do the thing that would be most uncomfortable for the most amount of people. And so you think, well, what would that be? Would that be going up for the bears or would that be going down for the bulls? I think it would be going sideways. I think going sideways would be extremely uncomfortable for the majority of market participants. I mean, a market like we had in COVID that drops 30% really fast and then recovers in 30 days, that's less painful than a market that goes sideways for 9 months for most people, because people are so, they're so impatient. They have to do stuff. And of course, institutional money has to chase return. So that's what we've seen. We've seen this same dynamic, just like yesterday. We see these gap downs. The futures are red pre-market, gap down, and then about 9 to 9:30 Pacific time, because again, I gauge everything by the West Coast. Buyers show up, right? And sometimes they don't drive the price right back up to where it was, but they put a floor in, right? And then we just get this little grind up, and everyone that thought we were falling off a cliff at the open is wrong again. So until I see something different, until I see a breakout of the range that we're in, I mean, I think this is what's going to happen. I think sideways is possibly on the table. And for me, here's the way I look at it, right? If the market goes up another 10% from here, let's say the SPX goes up another 10% from here and then corrects 10%, which would be reasonable, it's going to put us right where we are now, or maybe a little bit lower. So I'm in no hurry to put money to work. I did buy some. I got back into the nuclear and uranium stocks yesterday after speaking with Steve on a Spaces early in the morning. And then I do have a couple of pot stocks, of course, because gotta have a few of those. So.
Chunky.
Oh, and I've got energy. And about three weeks ago, in fact, not long after my last time I was on your show, I did start putting some money into some of the energy names, the Marathon, Valero, Halliburton, things like that.
That's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was going to ask you next. What are you doing in the commodities complex, right? Because a gentleman like yourself, an esteemed gentleman, with a gray hair or two, you've seen commodity bull markets, right? Kids these days, they haven't, right? They just see gold go down, commodity go down, right? Tech line go up, meme line go up. Like they haven't seen what you and I have seen. So I'm very curious to, to hear your thoughts on that. Because correct me if I'm wrong, the commodities bull markets you've seen in your career don't just last a year or two; they last for a decade or two. So curious your
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean,
there.
this is a oft repeated statement, but when commodities get going, they're like aircraft carriers. Once they get turned and going in a certain direction, they tend to go for quite a while. Um, yeah, I mean, I've seen times, you've seen them too, where potash was the big hot stock, a stock MOS, right, or CF Industries that just go crazy. The problem I have is that for me personally, this is my personal opinion, is most commodity stocks don't trade in a way that I feel comfortable with, right? Like trying to buy junior gold miners or silver stocks or, US Steel, they just don't have the feel that you have in some of the other, in financials or in tech stocks. So when we're in a mode like that, what I used to do when I was younger is I tried to push things, right? I would try to figure out trades in the industries that were working. And then finally I said, oh, maybe if I don't keep banging my head against the wall, it won't hurt. And so now that I'm older, wiser, like you said, more gray hair, been around the block a few times, I just tend to pull back a little bit more. I do like energy names because they do trade a little bit more. I feel they trade a little bit better than some of those other commodities. But like for me, it's kind of a little bit less is more. And then what I'll do is I'll keep an eye on the things that were working that and find out which ones are coming in the least amount. Like for example, we've seen stocks like Palo Alto Networks or CrowdStrike or Snow that were really hot, right? Two of those have fallen off a cliff, right? Snow and Palo Alto. But CrowdStrike, Cloudflare. I was getting confused. Cloudflare hasn't, right? It's holding, right? And so if those stocks start to come back into favor, like that's the one I'm going to be looking at because it's performed well. It's not like I won't look at the others as well, but I want to see the ones that have had the best relative strength when they're out of favor. And those are the ones I put on my shopping list to keep an eye on. But it's really about patience at this point and at this age. So.
Brian, you're not like an intermarket junkie as bad as some of us and some of us others. You're more narrow focused, and I respect that. I wish I could do that. I can't have a conversation about the stock market without talking about the bond market first, right? I just can't do it. I'm curious to see someone like yourself who's not intermarket first, but intermarket aware. I would argue. How do you think about just interest rates going up every day when Wall Street and the media is telling you that interest rates are going down, but the reality of the matter is the exact opposite is happening. Bonds have been crashing for 4 years, continuing to make new lows. How do you think about that?
It's really hard, especially someone like me who's got a little bit of ADHD, who tends to have a little bit of anxiety, lower level anxiety, because if I focus on those stories and I let myself kind of extrapolate in my head the worst case scenario, which is always what it is, right? They're never going to tell you the best case scenario. I can find it subconsciously seeping into my trading actions. And so I'll give you an example, like the commercial house or the commercial property crisis, right? This is something I've heard now for years and years and years. It's going to explode, right? Commercial property, and by the way, I don't disagree with that. I see it here in Southern California. Like we have an area that's right where I live called Little Saigon, one of the most industrious areas you'll ever see in the country, right? The largest population of Vietnamese outside of Vietnam. It's an immigrant community, right? Real work ethic. I've never seen
good
what's
eats.
that? Good eats, yeah. I've never seen, and you look, you can find this in any, you can find this in probably little cute, little Havana, whatever. You never see a for lease sign in these areas because as soon as the place opens up, there's a family or a business that goes in there. In the last 2 years, I'm seeing for lease signs in Little Saigon that I've never seen in my life. So I know that there are problems in the commercial property market, but they haven't shown up, right? And if I was worried about them, if I was trading based upon what I thought could happen there for the last 5 years, I wouldn't have done anything. It's the same thing with, coming out of the financial crisis. Everybody remembers Meredith Whitney, who predicted the banks would fail. But what they forget is 2 years later in 2011, she put out this big report saying that the pension funds of this country were underfunded and it was going to be a crisis even bigger than the financial
I
crisis.
think it was the muni bonds, right? The muni
Muni
bonds.
bonds. That's right. Yeah. And she wasn't wrong, right? She isn't wrong. And nothing has really changed in that. Like if you look at the California teachers, CalPERS out here, woefully underfunded, right? But again, it has not made any sort of material effect in the market. It might tomorrow, but so I really have to get my bullshit detector on high and and do this, right? Just pick up turn the noise off. Look at that's one of the things I like about a book is that there's no pop-ups, there's no notifications, no one's trying to jam an ad into you to get your attention. So, but it's tough. It's really tough. And I do not envy this the younger generation who doesn't, you and I grew up in a time before digital media, right? We remember a time that was quiet when people tried to get your attention in a newspaper ad or on a 30-minute news show, once a night. I don't know how they do it today. But you just got to really filter a lot of that stuff out because it doesn't, at the end of the day, does it help you make money? And if it doesn't help you make money, then it's no value to you.
By the way, speaking of Meredith Whitney, Meredith Whitney's married to a WWE wrestler?
A wrestler. That's right. Yeah.
Bradshaw. She married Bradshaw from
That's
WWE.
Crazy.
So WrestleMania is in Philadelphia, about an hour from me on Sunday. I think I'm going to go.
That's cool. I think one of the most fascinating things is how WrestleMania or WWE and UFC are now under the same company, right? Endeavor. That's a really interesting mixture because obviously UFC on one side is the real deal, right? It's people really beating the hell out of each other, and then you've got WWE, which is all act, right? So
it might be an act, but they're still beating the hell out of each other.
That's true, right? And I'd love to see the strategy meetings, at that company, how it's going to work.
The
together.
Rock is a bad guy now.
Oh, really? He's a heel. Okay.
He's a heel, like a bad guy. Like, isn't that funny? Like he used to be the people's champion when I was growing up. Now he's a bad guy. It's so funny. I'm dying. I really want to go. I just can't convince anybody to go with me.
Yeah, I'm so out of that world. Like I still think Andre the Giant's alive, so I don't,
Brian, not sure if you saw this, but Endeavor is actually getting taken private.
Oh, are they? I did not see that. Okay.
Yeah, it was yesterday. Silver Lake.
That's interesting.
Brian, what are you buying, bro? What are you buying here? You got a lot of cash. You're not buying this gold, bro?
I meant to grab my little box of silver coins, right? To hold up here. So look, I like silver. I mean, if you look at I don't like silver as a trading vehicle, right? Again, like I like to own physical silver because I'm kind of a coin nerd too. I'm a numismatic nerd. But if you look at where gold is in relation to silver, and if your thought process is that at some point that gap has to close, right? Like silver, it could close with gold coming down, but I think people think silver is eventually going to catch up. Maybe not all the way. I think that's a good play. I mean, silver's in a pretty big base, but I bought what I was going to buy. I bought, like I said, I bought Nuke stocks yesterday. I owned a couple of little pot stragglers here and there. I will say, here's an outside the box one. We were talking about this last night about Tesla, right? And all the bad news in Tesla. And great, whatever. But I think if you look at where Tesla is right now, after this run of bad news, after the news that came out yesterday, they're still above a recent low, right? A low that they made like maybe a few weeks back, right? Not a whole lot, but they're still above it, right? So the question is the news flow already, is it already priced in? Is it already priced in that drop from 300 to where we're at now? The whole thing about EVs, people not having as many, I don't know. But what I would say is if we hold that level, if we don't go back below that and we start to build up, then I would say a lot of that news is already built in, and that would be something I would look at. But that's, it's a little bit of an outlier.
Can we throw up slide 2 there, Spencer? This is what I'm looking at, Brian. Curious to hear your thoughts. Notice the color of the line. See what I did there?
You make me put my my glasses on. All right.
Don't hurt yourself.
Yeah. So I have way too much Tilray, way too much VFF. These legacy positions that I got into a long time ago and then just bought over the years to lower my cost of ownership. So yeah, I hope that happens. I hope Tilray.
I mean, looks like a bottoming process. You know that these are healthcare stocks? Did you know that?
You mean that's where that's the sectors that they're
That's
put
where
in?
they live. I would have thought that they were consumer discretionary or staples, either one.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think they're any of those, but who knows? I mean, I don't even look.
It's
Spencer,
where we spend our discretionary income buying pot, right? Or is it a staple like cigarettes and booze?
so this is one of those things that like I'm so like I don't inhabit that world, so I don't really know. Like, so maybe Spencer, you tell us what's the what's the thing on Tilray, right? What's the narrative that's going to get this thing
We'll
turned
bring in
around?
our chief marijuana correspondent here, Spencer Israel. Spencer Israel could tell you all about all the blue chips of the marijuana space.
I know, that's why he's the man.
Yeah.
I defer to
No.
him. He's the
No,
new
no,
Todd
no.
Harrison.
No, you're asking me what like the bullish thesis is.
Yeah.
They put pot in drinks.
I'll be honest. It's the same bullish thesis for everybody, which is changing the schedule. Federal legalization in the United States. That's the bullish thesis across the board for everybody.
Right. So
Being able to hold their
Because
cash at a bank.
the problem is that they have all this medical stuff, but you're getting it cheaper on the guy down the street, and the government's not getting their tax money there, right? So if everything is that what part of it is or no?
Not even
No?
what's going on, because it's dirt cheap at the dispensary now. It's just they've driven their own
commodity,
margins down to nothing.
yeah. Well, look, I think here's the thing I've been working under with the pot stocks for the last 6 months is who doesn't go out of business, right? That's the thing, right? Who survives? And I think one of the big problems when pot stocks went public originally is that, first of all, the cap tables were horrendous, right? They were terrible. And second of all, you took an industry that was really kind of a sketchy industry that probably had a lot of sketchy management and operators that didn't know how to work in a public environment. And they continued to be in play when they were a public company. Now, from what I've heard, and from the guy next door to me, is that Tilray, the management's a little bit better. They're a little bit more seasoned. They're more of a real company, but I don't know that, for sure.
Don't they have a big stake from one of the big
right?
liquor
So
producers?
that would be a validation of that theory, right? Is that you're not going to get a big legacy consumer goods company or discretionary company that's going to invest in, Aurora or ACB, something like that. They're going to invest in a decent company.
I don't know much about
you said
weed. Like I did, like Dave Chappelle said, man, I didn't go to weed college. Give me a 50 bag, right? Like I don't know much about the, you see the little hairy little orange. I see them. I don't know anything about that stuff. So for me, I think that pot is a lot more fungible than something like a beer, where you have like fungible beer, like I don't know, Busch Light, Bud Light. What's the difference, right? It's Keystone Light, Coors Light. They're all fungible. And then you have your non-fungible that are like your IPAs and the stuff that Brian Lund likes. But in weed, isn't it like less popular, right? Isn't it mostly just fungible?
It's a very good question, right? Because one thing the legalization did is it brought new users into the market. And if you ask anybody at any dispensary, do you know the difference between this brand or that brand?
Right.
Most of them will probably say, no, I don't. Right. I am price conscious, and maybe for certain things, yes, there's definitely some brand awareness there. And that's sort of where all these companies are trying to separate themselves with the brand, right? Our brand is better because of X, Y, and Z. But it's still so young. And unless you are a diehard, you really don't. You don't know. I'm not a diehard consumer. I haven't been to the dispensary in almost a year. I have no brand awareness or loyalty at all. Right.
Back in the day when I went to Amsterdam with a buddy of mine, Hawaiian buddy, who's really into pot. Right. So we go to a brown cafe, and they give us a menu, and the guy pulls out, it's like a library card. A library card file, right, of different strains.
Card catalog.
Thank you. I should know that, right? With the books.
You would think you would know that,
right? And he's talking about different strains, and I noticed there's a microscope on the sales. I'm like, what's that for? My buddy is like taking and putting it under the microscope to see the crystals in each one. Like, so, I mean, you can get really granular about this. But I think one of the things that you have to wonder is, like, with alcohol, depending on what you're going to drink, the strength, right? What the ABV is. Like, I don't think you don't have that with pot, right? You don't know it's not regulated how much THC content you can have in it. I think the other thing is, I think what's that?
They have the THC.
Yeah, it's not
but is it regulated?
It's regulated, is it?
Yeah, it's not. I mean, like in beer, like at some point you turn into a malt liquor if you have too much, or you're a wine. I
don't know.
Yeah. So I think the other thing about marijuana, obviously, the holy grail is getting it more into the healthcare world, right? Getting the good parts, the parts of pot that don't get you high, right? Which is what the CBD, right?
Yep.
And getting that into like your shampoo, or getting it into whatever, your consumer products. And
that's how it started, Brian, but it seems to have moved away from that. It was all about wellness at first, and some of these drugs were treating seizures and actually doing some great things. And now it's just kind of moved to, let's just sell these drugs and wait for it to get legal and make this little margin that we're going to.
Yeah, there was this one company that I used to, I bought at one point called Corbis, right? And they were always talked that people.
Pharma,
and it was
right?
Corbus, I think. And so they were in the discussion about pot stocks, but it turned out that they were really trying to extract cannabinoids, I guess, which can be used in, look at me using pot lingo.
It's the pharmaceutical.
The pharmaceutical part of it. I think that's another interesting thing. And maybe just the market doesn't recognize that. And maybe right now it still sees it as that commodity.
Look, the white whale is the legalization. JC's point about beer, people having opinions about beer, they have those opinions because of advertising and marketing, and you can't do that with cannabis. You just can't.
Good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Well, that's what they need. They need
to advertise the pot during the football game, like you
can't.
But if they did, I might have some opinions. You know what I mean?
Good point.
So,
it's not even advertising, it's educating their potential consumer, right? To know about all these different things about, I mean, people, right? The average person sees pot as a monolith, right? I think you're right. If they get safe banking and these other things, they can start to educate the consumers, and then you get the differentiation between different strains and different brands and products, and then we all make $1 gazillion.
So is that a part of the descheduling bull thesis? They will be allowed to advertise like a normal product?
You can't advertise cigarettes, right?
If you can use a bank, you can advertise. Yeah. No, I mean that's not the law, but I would just assume, right?
Cigarettes, there's special laws for cigarettes.
No, that's not necessarily true, Spencer, with the bank and advertising.
I know. I know. I was making it broad.
I would assume if it's descheduled.
I would also assume, but I don't know.
Hold on.
Like pharmaceuticals and gambling companies, they can use banks, but they have very strict regulations with what they can and can't do. In fact, the United States is one of only 2 countries in the world where pharmaceutical companies can advertise, right? Is that right?
These gambling companies are allowed to advertise, and boy, do they do it. It's sometimes
because it's the Wild West right now, and I'm pretty sure that's going to change. So they're trying to take advantage of it while they can.
I'm shocked you guys aren't sponsored by DraftKings on this show.
Hey, don't let the cat out of the bag yet.
Hey, how'd you guys do on March Madness?
I didn't even put it on UConn to win it all, because like the best odds you had when the tournament started was like plus 400, which to win the whole tournament, there was just nothing there. They've been such a heavy favorite.
Strazza prefers a better risk versus reward ratio.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a plus.
I picked Stetson to win it all, so I didn't do good.
Surprised Stetson was even in here. Shout out Florida.
Yeah.
Shout out Seton Hall. They should have been in the tournament. They beat UConn this year. They're going to go on to win the NIT. Are
they going to win the NIT? That sounds exciting.
Well, a lot of teams that probably should have made the tournament don't make the tournament, and this year it was worse than usual. There are probably like 3 or 4 that you could have argued should have been in there. So yeah, you get to go watch.
How about the women's game, the LSU game, hitting major numbers? Right?
Hey, what was the number? I said yesterday the over-under was what, 9? Did I say 9 million or 10 million? It was 12.
9, yeah.
12-6.
12.
Yeah, I apologize. I'm gonna retract my statements yesterday saying that nobody cares about women's basketball. I was wrong. Apparently, I'm the only one that doesn't care. Other people apparently do.
But didn't that game benefit though from the rivalry between was it Caitlin Cook and Angel, like that whole thing?
Caitlin Clark.
Right?
Yeah.
Bayou
Yeah.
Barbie. See, I know.
Because the Angel Reese girl is really good.
Look
too.
at me
Amazing.
talking sports here. What's going on?
Talking women's basketball. The amount of women's basketball that's been mentioned on this goddamn show over the last couple of weeks is making me sick.
I know.
It's a 20-year base, JC.
So good.
It's just breaking out. You'll see.
Failed breakout. It'll roll over as usual.
You'll see. All right.
It'll roll over.
Before Brian goes, I have one more real question. You called Tilray a legacy position. So when you're looking through your watch list, how are you making that determination? What kind of things are you thinking about when you say to yourself, okay, this one's a longer term investment for me?
So look, I'm going to be totally honest. Tilray is not a longer term investment. I got caught holding a bag. I mean, that's just it. I mean, I'll be totally honest. I went to the 2018 Stocktoberfest thing, watched Todd Harrison, talk about the revolution that was coming around the corner, and started getting interested in some of these names. Now I've traded around some of them, but some I just put in a, it's like you put them in a drawer and you say, these are either going to 0 or 1,000, right? And maybe every now and then you throw a little extra money in there to bring your cost basis down if you don't think they're going out of business. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing about me, right? And we talked earlier about this, about JC talking about the different narratives and the stories and I always do worse. I always lose my ass when I follow the narrative, right? Stocks like NVTA, right? There was going to be the Amazon of something, right? Whenever I buy into that and I ignore the technicals, that's when I get screwed. And that's just where I'm at with a couple of those pot names.
We made an Amazon of index. Did you see this?
No, I didn't. That's interesting.
Did you X out Amazon like I told you to?
Yeah, we did. You know how there's just like in every region of the world or every country, this is their Amazon.
Jumia is going to be the Amazon of Africa, I think, right?
It has been. It's just the stock don't go up.
Right.
That's what they say.
Right.
That's what they tell us. 95% drawdown. That happened to Amazon.
I can't believe it. The African stock was a scam all along. Wow, what a shocker.
Nigeria was just delisted.
Time to get long Nigeria.
The Nigeria ETF, NGE, was delisted?
Nigeria delisted just as Africa is stringing together like 7 straight up weeks.
You know how hardcore these guys are? I got an email from Nigeria yesterday with a picture of me and the Nigerian guy in London like 5-6 years ago.
Oh, it's real?
Like, we know each other. Send me money.
Oh.
Like,
That's
it's
crazy.
me and the guy. I remember how bad he smelled. I was like, dude, I felt bad. He smelled so bad. This guy, stunk up the joint. I don't think that I've ever met somebody who smells worse than this.
What were you doing in Nigeria?
He's in London.
I was in London. No, I was not in Nigeria.
Steve, how many millions of dollars do you think that Amazon 95% drawdown has cost investors over the year? Because everybody throws that out when they're in a crappy stock that's going down relentlessly. They always say, well, Amazon was down 95%, right? But you're not in the next Amazon. But people use that as an excuse.
It's a bad lesson. We were just talking to Spencer about hodling cryptos. And he made the point that these altcoins always come back.
No, I did not say that. Did not say that.
What? I'm just saying. One day
I didn't say that. Back. I said the majors have come back several times. That's what I said.
I was looking at Shopify, a year and a half, 2 years ago now, and thinking to myself exactly what you're saying, Brian. Well, they compare this one to Amazon, down 80, 85%. Amazon came back. I'd do it.
Look, if you liked Dog with Hat at 0.0005, you'll love it at 0.00000005. Brian Lund, always a pleasure, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Always a pleasure, my man.
Thanks for having me.
All right, before we bring on Mary, I want to cover a couple of things here. I want to talk about Intel. They filing out last night. They revealed that their foundry business lost $7 billion in 2023 on sales of $18.9 billion. It's nothing the first time that they've broken this out, I think, at least since or maybe it's not, but in any case it's a wider loss than they had the prior year, but they did say that their losses are peaking or bottoming, peaking. I'm not sure. The losses are going to shrink. Is what they said.
Yeah.
So,
it's probably not the first time that they're breaking it out because you should fire your CFO.
no,
if it
I
is.
don't think it is, but I'm not sure why they broke it out in a separate filing yesterday, but they did.
What you tend to see on the financial reporting side of things is when a segment, right, one of their business lines is doing really well, then they break it out then, right? And it's not uncommon for them to unbreak it out in the future when things
Yeah.
change. So they have a lot of kind of leeway with the notes to the financial statements. I think Intel in general, whenever I think of Intel, I think of IBM, Cisco. What were the four horsemen back in the day, JC? Was it Microsoft?
Four horsemen were Amazon, Google, Research in Motion, and...
Oh, really? I thought it was the old, the legacy tech
Google.
guys.
I think it was Google, Amazon, Research in Motion. Google, Amazon, Research in Motion.
So
one more.
Anyway, when I think of Intel, I think of Cisco and IBM. These Dow dog tech stocks that haven't been good for the past 20, 25 years. IBM looks interesting. Intel, it's like, how could you own this when so many other semiconductor stocks are so good? At least with IBM, there's something there in terms of the chart structure. Intel is still, if you run this thing on a relative basis, you really can't make a sound argument for being long this stock still.
Gross.
If not now, when for Intel? You know?
All right.
Government.
Nothing, no insider transactions at all this week. Nothing happening. Is there like a quiet period going on? Is there some kind, like why do you think there's nothing?
There could be earnings season. Where are you saying for Intel or for everyone more broadly?
No, just in general. We're not
Yeah,
seeing...
I mean, earnings season kind of starts in 2 weeks. So
Yeah, it's a blackout. Also, though, and this is unrelated, but coincidental and fun, I'm not finding many opportunities for new entries.
New entries in what?
Since last week. So the old leaders, the tech stuff, the growth trade, losing momentum, hard to have a ton of conviction here. Could you pick your spots? Yeah, sure. Like we talk about Google, nice fresh breakout, fine. Those charts are there. Harder to put those trades on today than any other time this year, for me at least. And then when you look at the new leaders, the energy stuff, the materials, the commodity stock theme that we're talking about, super extended, at least tactically speaking. So yeah, so it's like, I've been putting on new energy, new materials, but when I look at some of these trends now, a lot of RSIs are in the 80s. Throw up the consecutive up.
Put on a delta neutral trade last week, for example.
I know, but I'm directional here. It's the bull market.
You're literally telling me how hard it is to find a directional bet, and I'm telling you how easy it was to put on a delta neutral position last week.
It's easy to go golfing too when there's
nothing. So put
there.
on a delta neutral position and go golfing.
Oh, you could do both, right? All right.
Yeah, don't front like you're not like trading options from the golf course. Like this is not anything. This is not like a new thing for you.
Show my chart of the consecutive up weeks, because we just keep showing these, but it's important because these funds were launched. This is now the oil and gas services and the explorers and producers. These were launched almost 20 years ago, back in 2006. We haven't seen streaks like this. Do you want to overthink this indicator? No. Does it speak to just a relentless demand for these assets? Where are the sellers? We're going on 9-10 straight weeks for these subsector ETFs. We've never seen anything like this. So I think you could group this in some sort of a momentum thrust list, right, or basket, and very, very bullish. I think new rallies tend to start with some sort of momentum spike, and we're seeing that from these groups. However, do you want to jump in here after 10 straight up weeks? Probably not.
Two things. So number one, interest rates keep going up every day. So is it a surprise that energy is doing so well? I would say no. Number two, the Freeport-McMoRan trade that we put on, not to give out too many details, but the Freeport trade we put on bought the January calls and sold the May calls. To your point, Strazza, because the entry is a little shaky, but you want that long exposure, like that sort of mentality of like a calendar spread, I think speaks to your first world problem of the day.
Calendar spreads, that's my favorite option
right
strategy.
Now.
I think
no,
always.
No, not always. What are you talking about?
I think it's really cool, the flexibility that they give you in waiting for a resolution.
Yeah, but a lot of times that you're buying a breakout and you're buying a call option 2-3 weeks out, like you do often, like it's the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, this is just a new one that I've learned. Sean has been using it a lot over the past 12 months and continues to work.
I don't know, but
I like it.
Well, anyway, my point is that trade and that
New for me.
strategy speaks to your issue of some of these are too extended, right?
That's right.
Like you could sell the near-term calls that are going to deteriorate 45 days out, and you could just let them dance. And the more they dance and the more they churn around, the faster that premium decays. And then you're long the January calls. So you got forever. 9 months, whatever. It's a long time.
Yeah. I like it. I like
it too.
I really like the Freeport setup from yesterday. And there are certain chart patterns that lend themselves more to the
and
call calendar
environments.
spread. Like, yeah, right. Sideways, waiting for a resolution type of environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some are going though, right? Like at a certain point, don't we have to go through energy and materials? We come on here, we talk about all these steel names. Now we got the breakout in XLE at the sector index level. You start to make a list. More and more of these ranges are resolving. You can look at the ones who haven't resolved yet and start to say, okay, they're likely to go to.
TLT down to Thanksgiving lows for those keeping score at home. Bonds keep falling.
Like ExxonMobil is going to break out of its range.
What about the XLE? Yeah, it's the same story, no?
Right. Good ones are getting it done.
I want to hear what Mary has to say. There's nobody on the planet who consumes more ASE research than Mary. Always curious to hear what she thinks, right? Her perspective is very unique. We're super jaded over here. So I like her perspective, right?
Speak for yourself.
Jaded people.
You don't think that me and Straz, maybe you're not as jaded, but Straz and me are jaded AF.
I'm jaded in other ways, but maybe not in this.
I like to know what Mary's
I want to know what Mary's yellowing. Mary, what do you got? Hey, Mary.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How are you today?
Hey.
What is happening? I like your Halloween colors. Is that because interest rates are the highest since Halloween? Is that why?
Oh, are you talking about this? This is Navy. Navy. And
Oh,
orange.
it's Navy.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
It's a lovely necklace. Lovely.
Thanks, JC. I appreciate the compliment.
I know nothing about necklaces.
I'm sure your wife could help you out.
David Yurman is the cheat code. If you ever, David Yurman has got some nice stuff. It's not that expensive,
Yeah, it's good
David
stuff.
Yurman is like my go-to.
Yeah, good gifts. Good for you. Props to you.
Look at me. Come on now. So like we were just discussing, Mary, you don't have that jaded nature that me and Strazza have of just being so punch drunk after all these years of doing this and just being numb to anything, right? You come from a different perspective, so very curious to see what stands out to you of all the things that we're putting out, all the things we're doing. What do you like?
Yeah, so I had to giggle a little bit this morning when you guys were talking to Brian and talking about Tilray because I've brought that up a number of different times, and so I had a little laugh. But Tilray's still watching that one. I said we talked about it last week. I think you were gone, JC, but that one, for me, it's been that 250 level, and we keep wicking off of it, and we haven't closed above it yet. So I am in small position just to see where it goes, but. That if we get a close over 250, I didn't bring this chart. I didn't realize we would be talking about it, but if it closes over 250, I think it's got some room to run. So I'm watching that one pretty closely. But I've been getting heavy in energy, in the materials. So last week, gold has been performing really well for me. Had a position. Just been working out, and so last week I started watching silver more closely. Just to your point, JC, you always mention how if gold is going, silver should outperform. And so I started looking at some silver charts last week. I messaged Ian and I said, Ian, what do you think about this Pan America down here at around? I think it's about 1350. The PAAS, yeah. Looked like we had a little whoopsie there. And so I got long this one last week, and so far so good. This one's looking really good. And then he shot me back with FSM, Fortuna Silver. And this one's got a really nice base. And so I've got an alert set on this one for around 425-ish. And so, you know, like you guys are saying, the energy is working, the materials are working. And every day I feel like I'm going into rangefinder and using our search functions to look for energies and material stocks at their entry level, what we've kind of identified as that area of interest. And there are just so many things popping up, and there are a lot of trade ideas. The charts look good. Are they maybe extended a little bit? Yeah, maybe. So I've got a lot of alerts set in those particular areas right now, just to see if some base is complete or we break some highs, you know, whatever it is. That's kind of where my mind is at right now.
I like your Fortuna
I
Silver.
plan to come
Yeah,
back
isn't that
to
a nice base?
There's been some big momentum coming into silver. I think this is evidence of initiation. This is exactly what we want to see. This is what we were talking about earlier this week, JC. I think precious metals are ready. So it's like good, but momentum super overbought. These things are getting super extended in the near term. I'm taking profits in my AG calls
And
right
it's
now.
listen, this one, think about it.
We'll get more
This one's
involved.
from Vancouver, so there's a elevated chance that it's a scam. When gold and silver are doing well, the scams do the best. So you got that added juice, that Canadian juice. I'm into it.
Yep, I like the juicy plays. So yeah, the
And by the
jockier
way,
the better.
you can't see it in this chart, but those former highs are above 9, so you're looking at more than a double from current levels.
Yeah, not a bad trade. Last week, I had the chart with me, an energy company, ETRN. Yeah, so I got involved in this one right after the show. We didn't even get a chance to talk about it, but I got involved, because I was watching it on my screen and watching it go. Jumped right in after we closed the show, and this one again doing pretty well. And I'm already pretty heavy on energy from a legacy position that I've had for couple decades. And so I'm hesitant to jump into too much more just because portfolio is pretty heavy on it already. But, you know, if that's where the trades are happening, that's where I'm putting my money to work.
Go where the fishing's good, right? 5%
Exactly.
yield too, by the way, from this Pittsburgh company.
Yep.
Don't hate it. It's good. Energy is a good place to be, but the explorers and producers and oil services and equipment have really taken the leadership reins in a big way the past few weeks. So this one, you're just going to get lower beta here. And
that's good to know.
Yield. You got enough. Yeah.
I also want to check out the natty gas that you guys were talking about this morning. I had that on my list of things to do. So that's a
super one. That's a real.
That was a trade that I had to take an L on last year, but you know,
just know, Mary, that you're signing up for a headache.
I
know that going in. The natural gas, although you know, down here has historically been a great place to be buying. The timing's a little bit difficult. These things tend to just be messy before it gets going. In my old age, Mary, I have gotten more conservative where I like to wait for breakouts, you know. Too many gray hairs, Mary. Too many.
I hear that, JC.
Just patience with this natty gas.
Yeah, it burned me last year. I had to take an L and wrote it off against taxes, and it was what it was. But I got in a little way too early on that.
Look at that monthly MACD crossover.
Right.
I'm not a big monthly MACD crossover or a MACD crossover of any time horizon, yet alone monthly. But in this case, that strategy kind of makes sense to me. I'm into it.
Yeah, silver, same thing.
Yeah.
Yep. Good stuff.
How about uranium, Mary? Any interest in uranium? The last 2 days have been pretty good.
Yeah, that's on my list also to go back and explore some names, just because you guys have been keeping me busy, and my kids are home on spring break this week, so life is a little chaotic. There's not been as much time for looking at charts and coming up with game plans. I've been trying to entertain little people.
That's all right. You know, you don't have to be, you can play mommy. You don't always have to be trader.
Uranium's on the to check out list for later today if I get some time, along with a whole list of other materials and other things. I saw a really great aluminum chart. I wish I remember which one that was. It hit one of my scans, just, you know, simple scan that I do. What's that?
CENX, Century Aluminum.
Nope, that wasn't it. I probably got it somewhere here in my notes, but going back to that metals theme, just base metals and the precious metals. So yeah, they all keep working. So that's where I keep fishing.
Yeah, commodity stocks. I think this is the theme. I think it probably remains the theme. I think it's got legs.
So that's what I've got today. Sorry, not super sexy.
No, it
was a
little sexy. Come on, Mary.
It's just, like talking commodity. It's just a difference of talking commodity stocks, like, gas and energy and gold and silver. It's not the same
things can be
as
sexy, Mary. They just haven't been sexy for a while. Don't worry about it. We're
Good
sexy
point.
back.
All right, they're just, it's not an MSTR and making 500%.
Thank God. So. We don't always need those things. And by the way, these little energy
they're sure
stocks,
fun though.
They'll trade that way. You'll see. Watch.
All right. I'll wait to see it.
Hit the bumper, Spencer.
Right.
My New Year's resolution was to drink less Italian wine. And I've probably drank more Italian wine this year than I did last year. So I just drink too much Italian wine. It's just, I had this problem with France years back. And now it's just a personal problem. So yesterday, however, I was drinking some UTL Requena from down in Valencia. You could throw that up at slide 2 there. Listen, man, I always say that your money goes the furthest in Italy, right? And I truly believe that. In other words, the money that you're going to spend, you're going to get the most value for that dollar in Italy than in any other country, in my opinion, right? That doesn't mean that French wines aren't good. You're just going to pay more for it, right? This doesn't mean California wines aren't good. You're just going to pay more for it. The best bang for your buck, I think, is Italy. After Italy, I think it's Spain. Right in there with it. Even cheaper or less expensive, I should say. UTL Requena down in Valencia. This is 100% Tempranillo. Get involved. UTL Requena.
If it makes you feel better, buddy, my New Year's resolution was no precious metal stocks, and I didn't do so well.
Yeah, but that's
and here we are.
At least I had a real reason. You just did that for no reason.
Not drinking Italian wine.
No. I didn't say don't drink Italian wine. I said I want to drink less Italian wine as a percentage of my overall wine consumption.
Yeah, all right.
The ratio. Going parabolic. It's unsustainable.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say big shout out to breakfast for dinner. If you don't do breakfast for dinner, you are missing out on life.
I agree.
Breakfast for dinner last night. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I just had omelets and, made some omelets and, it's one of life's hidden pleasures. Breakfast for dinner. When you're an adult, you can do that. And just
the satisfaction you get from making a good omelet too. I love making eggs. Flip, and you're like, yes, I nailed it.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
Feels
definitely.
So I recently taught my 3-year-old daughter about breakfast for dinner, and her head was exploding. She couldn't believe it. She's like, bacon and eggies for dinner? Like, she was running around going crazy. She couldn't believe it. Like, that it was actually a thing.
It's one of my favorite things.
We call that Brenner in our house.
Ooh, Brenner.
My kids love
that.
it. Brenner.
That's good.
Breakfast for dinner.
Brenner.
Brenner.
I didn't really do this growing up because my dad hates it. My dad thinks dinner is for dinner and breakfast is for breakfast.
My wife is one of those. She's ridiculous.
We didn't really have this a lot growing up, but you got to treat yourself. It's
nice to break up the routine when you just keep having the same, meat and vegetables. It's nice to break up the routine.
Couldn't agree
that's
more.
what I got.
I will be channel checking today, both TJ Maxx and Ross stores. So I'm excited to report back tomorrow. Line's going to be 20 people deep. There's going to be clothes strewn all over the floor.
Why are you going to those places?
We'll see.
Why? Yeah.
Need like dumb bathroom stuff, bathroom curtain, hoping to find.
They
some
sell
sort
that
of
at
furniture
TJ Maxx and Ross?
Yeah, because there's no furniture stores here. So TJ Maxx and Ross have like these small, like little furniture departments in the back corner.
Why don't you just order it online like a normal person?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We have a TJ Maxx gift certificate. We're gonna check it out.
That's it.
Have fun. I've got nothing.
Go get some sloppy joes. That's what I would do if I were you.
Do they even serve sloppy joes? At
Yeah,
sloppy
they're
joes?
extra sloppy. They're delicious. What's the matter with you, bro? Go get yourself a sloppy Joe.
Extra sloppy.
Nobody goes.
Extra sloppy.
Nobody
Extra
goes there.
sloppy for you.
That's right.
All right. That'll be a good place to wrap. Thanks to Brian Lund. Thanks to Mary for hanging out. Thanks to all of you in the chat. We'll see you guys at 1 o'clock for the Hot Corner. Oh, and members of All Star Options, you know what you have going on later, 3 o'clock Eastern Time. Stay tuned for that. The rest of you, see you at 1 or tomorrow. Either or. Smash the like.
See you soon.
Give us a follow.
Adios.
Go make some money.
Bonds, new lows.
Hump day.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs. I hit the ground, then I go